Good afternoon.
Hey,
And it's
everybody.
Shauna.
Oh, hey, Miss Shauna.
Hi, Shauna. I believe I turned on chat for everyone. There were two other individuals there a minute ago, so we'll just wait a second.
Yeah.
Um, Hello. Welcome back. And now we have Amanda. Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Amanda.
Welcome. We're going to wait a minute or two. I have a handful of people, Amanda, who registered for the webinar this afternoon. So I'll wait just couple more minutes. Feel free to say hello in chat if you like, Amanda. Let us know where you're coming from. And then we have someone who's taking notes for Jessica. So I'm still going to say welcome, Jessica. And then we'll make some introductions in a second. Let's give everybody another minute or so. Oh, Pennsylvania. Nice. Welcome, PA. Oh, and I need to do one more thing. One moment. We'll go ahead and get started, I think. So, welcome to Amanda and Jessica as well too. My name's Heather. I'm going to be leading the webinar this afternoon. So I am the Field Operations and Partner Development Manager. Also got Tammy with me. Tammy is part of the seller support team. So she's going to be giving you a bit of an app demo partway through the session this afternoon. It's going to take about 45 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer. We'll see. Feel free to put your questions in chat, Amanda, if you like, as we go along, and we'll take a minute to keep checking it to make sure that we can answer those questions for you. And then also as well, Shauna is here from the field team. She's field admin, and she's going to help answer any questions as we go along so we don't miss anything. So yeah, thank you for making time this afternoon. I see someone from Twilight Transitions. I'm not sure if you can put your name in chat for me, that would be amazing. We haven't started anything yet. Let us know who you are and welcome. And then we'll get things going. Give you just a minute to do that. And then hopefully everybody can see my screen okay. It should say Partner Managed Training Max Old. Hi, Natalie. Welcome. I just made a quick introduction, I think, right before you came into the room. So I'm Heather Dusome. I'm the Field Operations and Partner Development Manager. I've got Tammy here with me as well, too, from Seller Support, who's going to do an app demo. And then we have Shauna also, who is Field Admin, who will help us answer some questions in chat as we go along. So we might as well get things started and dive right in. So again, thank you for making time this afternoon. First thing we'll start out with is just to give you a bit of a run through of this afternoon and what we're going to be covering. So the afternoon webinar is tailored to equip you for success with MaxSold. I'm going to guide you through the essential components of the auction process, and those include setup, cataloging tips, an app walkthrough, like I mentioned with Tammy, partway through, and then the last part is about pickup day logistics. So our goal is really to ensure that you feel confident and prepared and efficient at every stage of the journey as you do your auctions. Strongly encourage you to explore our learning management system. So that's called Teachable, and it offers more in-depth guidance and information on some of the topics that we're going to cover this afternoon, as well as some others. It just goes into a little bit more detail beyond what we can discuss in a 45-minute webinar. So really beneficial if you take the opportunity to go through those modules. You don't have to go through the entire thing if you choose not to. You can pick and choose modules based on what it is that you would like to learn about. So we'll start out by reviewing what our four-step process is. So this four-step process involves a lot setup. So that involves organizing and grouping your auction items effectively. Second portion is catalog creation. So this is where you will photograph and describe your lots using either smart cataloging within our seller app or manual cataloging if you so choose. Third step is to review and set your dates. So after you're done with cataloging, you're going to review your auction and then choose your dates. And then lastly is hosting the pickup day. So finally, you're going to conduct the pickup day for your auction. So next, let's go over how to actually set up for a successful auction with MaxSold. Like I said, feel free to ask questions in chat if there's something that comes up as we go through things. So setting up for success and the importance of setup. A really well-organized site makes things easier for you. Listing, photography, and then cataloging, of course. Conversely, a disorganized site can lead to delays and the risk of overlooking valuable items, which could potentially diminish the auction's final value. So you want to make sure that your setup is well done. For those of you who may be move managers or organizers, I don't know if we have a few of those in the group today. Hi, Joan, welcome. This is something not new to you. For those who haven't done it before, it might be something new to you. So also feel free to share in chat if you have some tips and suggestions as we go along for those who are familiar with doing this. Consider setup as your launch pad, because when you get this aspect right, the rest of the auction process really is more likely to run smoothly for you and your team if you do have one. So in terms of organizing the space, you want to begin by reviewing the site and distinguishing between items that are for sale and those that are not. Remove any garbage, eliminate anything that doesn't belong. So that could be things like personal paperwork of your client, photos, private family items, and then clearly mark items your client wishes to keep if they can't actually be removed. If you're uncertain about any items as you go through this process, we do have a reference list called the items policies list that's on our seller FAQs on the website. And this item policies list aims to protect the integrity of our sellers, buyers, and the MaxSold brand. So some items are legally protected, while other items we don't allow may be restricted for things like safety reasons, moral or ethical reasons. So it's a good reference tool to use as you're going through that setup process. If you have questions or concerns about something that you come across and whether it is allowable on the site. Once the organization is complete, you want to ensure items are unwrapped, visible, and easily accessible for cataloging. Ideally, nothing should be hidden away in boxes. I'll reference that a little bit later on as well, too, because there are some things that you could potentially leave in boxes, but for the most part, you want everything to be unpacked so it's easy to photograph. We also suggest addressing the challenging areas first. So those difficult spaces like garages, basements, sheds, outbuildings, if that's part of what you're doing with your auction, say it's an estate, any of those areas that are cluttered or dusty and hard to access due to volume, human nature, sometimes we want to leave those to the end, but honestly, tackling these challenging spots first will help you stay on schedule and prevent any fatigue for yourself and your team if you do have a team helping you out. Then you know those challenging areas are out of the way, and you can continue on with the rest of what you need to do. What is a lot? So this is a question we get asked a lot for individuals who are new to the process. So a lot is just a group of similar or related items. So a few examples could be a lot of vintage linens. It could be gardening items that you lot all together. So it could be some gardening tools, gardening books, gardening pots, etc. Books, you could have a lot of books, could be autobiographical books, could be cookbooks, and so you want to lot those similar items together. The key with lotting is to aim for an average auction value of at least $35 per lot across your entire auction as best as possible. Obviously, you can't always hit that every single time, but that's basically the goal, to try and attain that $35 average value per lot. And just to reiterate that it's not retail value, but actual auction value based on previous buyer behavior. If a lot is too small, consider combining it with related items. So if it's you want to beef it up a little bit. If it's too mixed or large, you might also consider splitting it up. Really, at the end of the day, your goal is to create a really clean, logical grouping that's going to offer clear value and interest to bidders. So some lotting and grouping best practices and tips. You want to steer clear of tiny or singular item lots unless the item is of high value. So by this, I mean maybe it's a piece of gold jewelry or an original piece of art or a quality piece of art glass. Those things can stand alone if you think it can support that $35 value. But you don't want to put really tiny, singular, low value items together or in a lot by themselves because that's not going to help boost your auction's performance. Particularly in very dense areas with lots of smaller items, we suggest using painter's tape to help mark out each lot. You don't have to do this. It's helpful and it makes it easy to photograph and catalog. And then it's also really clear what's part of the lot during pickup. Again, it's just a suggestion. You don't have to do that if you have enough space to be able to lot things and leave enough room in between those lots, then that's totally fine as well too. A few other things to remember during your setup and lotting. So items in cupboards, if say you're doing an estate or this is someone's home. So an example could be kitchen cupboards. They can generally stay in the cupboards, the items, but box contents should be unpacked, like I mentioned, unless the entire box can be sold as one lot. And that would be maybe a lower value lot. So that you could leave in a box. So that could be maybe a box of Tupperware, or maybe it's lower value everyday drinkware, that sort of thing. Those could be left in boxes to save time and be efficient and not have to unpack those lower value items. Original art is already hanging on the wall is often easy enough just to photograph where it is and can remain there. As long as it's accessible. Smaller prints and things could be grouped into smaller lots in terms of maybe 4 or 5 together because the value would maybe be a little bit lower than an original piece of art. And those you could put in small groupings and probably would require that you took them off the wall. Hardwired or mounted items, so things like light fixtures or TV wall mounts, they do need to be disconnected, obviously, prior to pickup. But we ideally suggest you do it prior to being cataloged, if at all possible, because then you know that it's done and it's one less thing on your checklist to make sure that gets completed before pickup day happens. It's helpful to keep track of how many lot numbers you create in each room. So you can do this by using Post-it notes, tape, or lot stickers if you choose to use the printed paper copies of the lot stickers sent to you. This information you can use to create a simple site map, and it will help those who are cataloging and then also help you streamline your pickup later on. It gives an idea of, say bedroom number 1, we have lots from 226 to 242. If you can just put that on a piece of tape at the entrance to the room or on the doorway, that's considered your site map. You immediately know exactly where those lots are should you need to go back and reference them for some reason. The other thing to remember that items need to remain where they are throughout the duration of the process. So that's something important to let your clients know about as well too. Use every available flat surface, so things like tables or the floor to help stage your items. But of course, like I said, be mindful of the environment, especially if the site is still occupied, say, by your client. They're going to be residing in the home during this process. And so you want to make sure that it's not impacting that as best as possible. Some partners also use stackable plastic shelving units to help display and unpack lots to take advantage of some vertical height if space is an issue, because we do know that everybody does not have the square footage sometimes to be able to display and take everything out. Pardon me, got a frog. So to just quickly wrap up this one section, great auctions really do start out with great setup. And remember, prep is your power tool to help move things along as efficiently as possible. Everybody doing okay? Please let me know if I'm going too quickly at all. So next up, let's talk about 3 simple pillars of a strong auction strategy. And this formula helps maximize the success of every auction you manage. And we call these the 3 V's. So that's volume, variety, and value. When you apply them together, you can increase traffic, attract more bidders, and then drive higher final sale prices. So I'm just going to go through each one of these and break them down a little bit. So the first one being volume. We do recommend a minimum of 75 auction lots per sale. You may, if you have some higher value items, it might be a little bit less than that. But the reason we recommend 75 as a good benchmark is because volume creates momentum. So with more lots, you increase the chances that every bidder finds something that they're interested in. So if you think of it like this, if an auction only has, say, 30 items, a buyer might click through, pardon me, leave in a few seconds, which is not the intent you want to have. But if there are 75, 100, or more than that, they're more likely to stick around, scroll, and start bidding. So when you're working with a seller, counsel them to include as much as possible. Don't necessarily discard items that might seem small or secondary, because if you group them smartly, like I was talking about during lotting, they can still create some great value. You can see a few examples on the screen in terms of auction sizes. So one from last year, pardon me, in Toronto had 576 lots. We frequently support some very large auctions. This one had a 100% sell-through rate and did $105,000. And then another one in California, which was close to $37,000 and had 476 lots and a 99% sell-through rate. So those are two good examples. Variety is the second V. So a successful auction appeals to as many buyer interests as possible. And the broader the range of items, the more types of bidders you're going to attract. And then that just in turn translates to more bidding. So even things like seasonal items that are outdoor, maybe it's outdoor patio sets, barbecue grills, gardening gear, all of those things help provide that variety. And sometimes even off season, those things are bid on quite well as well. You can see a few examples on the screen. So in terms of variety with this auction, there's some collectible vintage Pyrex. You've got some furniture, some silver-plated flatware, maybe some tools from someone's garage. So this is appealing to a number of different people. So the biggest thing is it's not just about having a full catalog, it's about having something that might catch the eye of every kind of bidder in your auction. And then lastly is value. So you want to encourage your sellers to include standout items when it's possible. So perfectly clear on the screen that there are examples of vehicles. So there's a truck there. This would be sterling silver flatware, some fine jewelry, coins, collectible. Even if they have a few of those items, those are always really good things to include in the auction because these items often bring increased site traffic, more attention, and realistically, that just means more eyes are on every lot, whether it's a large lot, a small lot, or one of these lots that has a higher value. These are the pieces that people will search for. They'll often bookmark them to come back to, and ultimately may end up competing over to drive up the bidding. So in other words, one high value piece can effectively help lift the entire auction. So a key takeaway in terms of the 3 V's, if you want to run a strong auction every time, do your best to try to lean into all 3 of them. If you have 2 out of the 3, that's still great. But it's always a good best practice to try and have all 3. And when you help your clients hit all 3, you're really just setting them up for success and creating the kind of auction experience that buyers will keep coming back for. Before I dive into precious metals, does anybody have any questions on what we've gone through so far? And I'm going to take a pause to take a bit of a sip of a drink. So sorry. Don't know where the scratchy throat came from all of a sudden. Everybody still doing okay? I'm good to continue. All right, so precious metals and why they deserve some special attention. We included this as part of a webinar, an evening webinar a few months ago, so decided to continue to have this in our afternoon webinars as well too, because it is important. So I'm going to start with gold because it's one of the most consistently high performing categories on Max Sold, only when it's listed correctly. And sometimes precious metals can trip people up. So this is why we thought it's good to still can include this in the webinar and give some pointers. So clear identification and accurate descriptions when it comes to precious metals help build bidder trust. It will increase competition and then help sellers achieve stronger results again. So for the next couple of minutes, I'm just going to go over how to identify and catalog gold jewelry with confidence. Some of you may be familiar with this already, and that's awesome if you are. There are a few, some tips in here. Some of you may be less experienced, and that's okay too. That's why we have decided to include. The first and most important step is how gold is grouped. So really, gold jewelry should always be separated from costume jewelry and listed as individual pieces or in very small lots. You'd be surprised how often families or individuals think someone has sorted and gone through the costume jewelry, and then lo and behold, we find out there's something in there that is not costume jewelry and is a precious metal. So it can be good to invest some time to make sure that either the family has done it or you have someone doing it for you. The other thing to mention, even though we're talking about precious metals, there are many names of costume jewelry that are also highly sought after. So it's not even a bad idea to go through the costume jewelry just to identify those pieces as well too, on top of any precious metals. It's also good to note that broken gold is still gold, and tiny pieces can add up quickly, so you can always include those as well too. Clean photos showing all the details, so the markings, clear descriptions. These allow bidders to confidently assess the value, which typically leads to higher final prices. The other tip we have in terms of precious metals and often like smaller things and jewelry is diffuse natural lighting is best for photos, and to try your best to avoid using a flash because unfortunately the bounce back on a flash doesn't really give you very good images of fine jewelry. So in terms of takeaways for gold, separate the precious metals like gold from other items, create small lots, and that will help you get higher bids. So now I'm just going to quickly talk about identifying gold and how to train your eye to spot it. You want to look closely at clasps, bands, and the insides of rings for hallmarks. As you can see on the screen, there have the common marks identified. You always want to describe the item using the exact mark shown. So if it's stamped 14K, you're going to say marked 14K. You want to avoid any assumptions or estimates because accuracy is what bidders will trust. Not everything that looks gold is solid gold, and bidders care about the difference. So if you see GP, that means it's gold plated, a very thin layer of gold applied to another metal. If you see GF, that means that it's gold filled, a layer of gold bonded to a base metal. And then if you see GEP, which is less common, but it's still there, it means the item has a thin layer of gold applied to a base metal, such as brass or steel, using an electroplating process. So these items can still have value, of course, but they should not be described as solid gold, and that's sometimes where people get tripped up. Magnet and acid testing, so there's little at-home kits. They can be very helpful, but if you want truly definitive results, we do suggest your best option is to consult a professional or a jeweler just to make sure that the items are what you're claiming them to be, excuse me. Those at-home tests can be super helpful, like I said, but you always want to have like a little bit of caution with those as well too. So next up is identifying sterling as well too as a separate precious metal. So first you're going to want to confirm that it's actually sterling. So you're going to look for marks like 925, sterling, or potentially a British Lion Passant. Be careful not to confuse sterling with plated marks such as EP or EPNS. We have that sometimes come up frequently. And in our QA channel, questions from buyers often stem around someone maybe putting a color description of silver in terms of, say, it's flatware or something else in the title or description, but then it's not really clear because they're choosing it to designate it as the color of the item, and people get confused and wonder if it's actually sterling silver. So it's best to be very, very clear if you have something that's sterling silver or silver plated. So it should be sterling silver should be separated from costume jewelry, just the same as gold, and as well from any silver plated items to avoid some of that confusion that I was just mentioning. There are many items aside from jewelry that can be sterling. So these are things that to watch out for, especially if it's an estate. It could be picture frames. Sometimes people miss, and there's a little stamp on the bottom. Sterling flatware, cigarette lighters, little trinket boxes, etc. So you want to make sure to check those as well too. Next, you're going to photograph all the hallmarks really clearly, just as you would for gold. Close-up shots of purity marks, maker's marks, and any date letters are essential. And these details will help, again, like I said, build trust and often help to determine value. As well, if it's jewelry, recognized brands can increase the value. So if you know the brand of the item, I would also recommend putting that in the title or the description. And the reason we say to really focus heavily on good photos is when it comes to smart cataloging, it will help you, AI will help you make the determination of what those items are. Obviously still needs to be reviewed because AI is not 100% foolproof, but the better your photos are identifying things, the easier it is and quicker it is for AI to efficiently help you out with those descriptions. Including measurements and sizes. So especially for things like chains and rings, a lot of people don't do this, but we actually do recommend it because it's helpful for individuals to understand, is it going to fit them if maybe they're buying it for themselves? If we don't have the ring size, you may be missing out on people who would potentially be bidding. Also, the condition details is a very good best practice. You just want to be as honest as possible about what the condition is of some of these items. And then finally, use really strong searchable keywords in your title, which, like I mentioned, AI will help you with. So things such as sterling silver, 925, hallmark, because it's clearly identifying, hey, look at me, I'm a precious metal. Avoid guessing the types of gemstones. So just the one thing to note, if you choose to weigh the precious metals you're listing, make sure your scale is accurately calibrated. You don't want to end up in the situation where your scale is not accurately recording what the weight of something is. And you've taken a photo of that and now you've put that in your auction lot listing and it's not accurate. So it's a good best practice to make sure that you're testing your scale frequently. You know, batteries are fully charged, et cetera, et cetera. And then I would say, again, if you have someone as a resource who's professionally trained to assist you with any of these things, that's honestly the better solution so that you have 100% confidence that you know what you're putting in is accurately photographed and described and titled. So next, I'm going to talk about something that has a really big impact on buyer engagement and auction success, which I just referenced, and that's your lot titles and your descriptions. So coupled with really clear photos, this is how buyers find what they're looking for. So really strong standardized titles and accurate descriptions don't just help items sell, they do reduce the opportunity for refunds and build trust, which ensures that smooth experience for everyone. Along with clear photos, the lot title is the first thing that buyers see, and it's what shows up in search results. So you want your titles to be very clear, keyword rich, and consistent. So a couple of important things to keep in mind. Use brand names in your titles. They can help searchability. Avoid vague or generic terms like lot or miscellaneous lot or decor lot. Those aren't searchable words that people would use, and it's very broad. What does a decor lot mean? So we recommend that you try and stay away from any vague, or generic terms. And then also terms like antique or vintage, because sometimes they get overused. And is it truly an antique or truly vintage? And so we recommend if you know that it's antique and it's 100 years old or more, then fantastic, put that in the title. But we want to make sure that we're not claiming something as something when it's not. And then lastly would be specific wood types. So if you're not 100% sure of something, it's better just to say it's wood than try to go into great detail and end up saying something is oak when it's pine or something else. It's better to just label it as wood. So descriptions. These give buyers the details from that title now that we've moved on from, but they need to make an informed bid. So a strong description will help prevent confusion or disappointment. And here's what to focus on in terms of descriptions. Again, it's better to stick to facts. So avoid opinions like beautiful or rare or cool. Those are just extra words that you're ending up putting in. And to be honest, what's beautiful to one person might not be to another. What's rare, if we overuse that term, well, is it truly rare? I've seen so many things, not necessarily within our platform, but in other places where somebody claims something is rare. I go and Google it and look it up, and there's 300 of the same item. That's not something that I would personally consider to be rare. So we want to be careful with those terms as well too. And like I said, not everybody thinks one thing is cool and something else is maybe less cool. So there's differences of opinion. We want to stick to as many factual descriptions as possible. Include the brand specifics and model numbers in that description. Again, AI will help you with that if you take really good photos. If the item is electric or mechanical, you can describe it as untested unless you know that it works. So for an example, it could be a lamp. You just flip it on and you take the picture and everybody knows, okay, it's in working condition. Or you actually have your client, the seller, state that it works. Then you can add into your description working as per seller. We understand, obviously, people don't have time to test every single thing in terms of maybe doing an estate sale. So that's why you can put in your description that it's untested. If you have book lots, it's helpful to list the genres. I think I mentioned this earlier. So it could be a lot of fiction books, cookbooks, children's books, etc., because people may be searching for those particular book lots. Measurements also go in your description. So they're a very important detail. This helps buyers assess if it will fit in their space, maybe the vehicle requirements they might need to bring to help take those items away after they've won, and then any other logistics as well too. So do they need to bring extra individuals to help out with this, especially if it's a piece of furniture? So measurements are honestly quite critical. It takes a moment or two sometimes to measure these things, but it's also an area where we get a lot of questions from buyers who want to know, like, how big is this? The other reason measurements can be important is sometimes when you're taking photos and you're really intent on zooming in a little bit, measurements can also help mitigate any issues with people assuming something is larger than it is because we've zoomed in to get to catch the details on it. So it's super helpful in that regard as well too. Measurements in terms of furniture are in inches, so it's width, depth, and then height in that order, and the app prompts you to do that. And then art is done as height and width, as well as rugs. Those are measured in feet, not inches. And a quick tip in terms of rugs, if you do have a client that has some rugs that are in the auction, oftentimes there's a fact tag still stuck on the underside of the rug, possibly in one of the four corners. And it can give you really valuable information about the rug. It could be where it was made, what's the fiber content, how it was made, and potentially even the size as well too, so you don't have to break out the tape measure and measure it on your own. TVs and monitors, you can use the model number on the back sticker. Again, great to take just an actual photo of that. And the first two digits will help determine the screen size. And then jewelry, like I mentioned before, include the chain lengths and ring sizes when possible, because by doing this, you could attract more bidders who might wish to purchase for themselves, or maybe they're going to give it as a gift and they really need to know the size. And then finally, always check for damage and describe it. Let buyers know what kind of condition to expect, because being upfront avoids any misunderstandings. So there's a couple examples on the slide of some descriptions that include references to damage. So for example, this one says use vintage with surface wear, light scratches, small chip on the top edge, not structurally damaged. That, if I'm reading that, that gives me a very clear understanding of what it is that I am bidding on. And then a slightly simpler one is the one underneath there with untested, which identifies that, yes, okay, this is a blender, but nobody had time to test it, so we're putting it in as untested, bid appropriately. Excuse me, sorry. And then one last thing, as part of your description, there will also be options for pickup categories. So you're going to add the pickup category letter so buyers know how to prepare for removal. This appears on their invoice. And then also for yourselves, it helps you organize your pickup day windows based off of each category. So you can see all the pickup categories on the screen, and I'm just going to quickly go through visual examples of each one of these. So category A, this could be maybe a lot that's outside, one and done, pick it up. It's easy. They don't even have to enter the premises and off they go. Or it could be something small enough to be carried by one person. So for example, this is just a singular item lot of a piece of art glass. Boom, they're done and off they go. They take it away. So that's a category A. Category B is a lot that's over 20 pounds or needs some amount of packing. So you can see the example of some books. That's going to maybe take a couple of minutes and requires a little bit of packing up. So it's not just a quick grab it and go. Category C's, these are generally larger or bulkier pieces of furniture. It could also be lots that may require additional packing time or disassembly. Maybe it's a bookcase that needs to be unpacked based on the room that it's in, or not unpacked, disassembled because of the room that it's in to be able to take it out. So these are the items that would fall into category C. And then lastly, category D and E, you will notice on the app, on the seller app, mobile seller app, excuse me, E is not listed there, but it is actually listed within the web-based app, which Tammy's going to give you a demonstration of. So you can add that in there if you so need it. But D's and E's are for those larger auctions or for larger items. So you can see on the screen, there's an example of a dining room table and then the rug underneath. Ideally, that category D is the dining room table. You want it to move on out before category E people come because the rug is trapped, so to speak, underneath. And so you want the table to be gone first. Any questions surrounding any of that before I stop talking and switch over to Tammy? Is everybody doing okay? Hopefully I didn't go too fast. Oh, Natalie has a question. Natalie, I don't know if oh, yep, go ahead. I think
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. I was just wondering, in creating the categories, how does that help to get one thing out before the other? Does that inform the pickup time?
Does. So I'll use an example. Say a bidder has purchased items or one items, I should say, in category B, C, and D. The scheduler will put them in category D because that's their latest window of the largest piece that they need to come pick up. So everything will be within that time slot. So say, for example, your auction pickup day is from 10 until 4. Category D is going to be towards the end, so that it makes sure that, say, category D in this case was a bookcase, all of the other things are going to be largely cleared out of it so that it's easy to take it out and they're not arriving like at the beginning of pickup trying to pick up a bookcase that has all kinds of tchotchkes and things in it. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And so it will also be able to assign per buyer, like if the buyer is buying books that are in A or B, then it will put that person first before.
Yes, as best as possible. I mean, it's not 100% foolproof, but it has worked very well for us in terms of sectioning out some of those bigger things. So like I said, you don't have someone, showing up, and you can say this to a buyer if someone comes early, like, I'm really sorry, this is this china cabinet is still full of china. Your window of time was from 3 to 4 and right now it's 10 a.m. like, we're going to need to have you come back if at all possible. If you can facilitate doing it, that's great, but there are times that you can't, when things are very dense and things might be behind other things as well too, and you can't logistically get to it. And that's why the categories are really good to use. Some partners only use, it depends on the size of your auction again too. Some partners, Natalie, may only use category A for the entire thing because all their lots are very, very small and it doesn't matter. Right. But particularly for a home or, a large site, this is super helpful for sure.
Yeah, that is a really neat feature. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for the question. That was a really good one. So now I'm going to pass it over to Miss Tammy, and she's going to take you through the app, and I'm going to have another drink of water. Thanks, Tammy.
Sure. No
We'll make sure
problem.
your screen is good. Sorry, before I
Oh my goodness, of course my dogs are barking. They've been so good all day.
don't worry about it. I can't hear a thing. Can't hear them at all.
Okay, good. Okay,
So
just
we'll
give me
just
one
double
second
check
here.
Tammy's screen once she shares it. Everybody let me know if you can see it okay. And then we'll. There we go.
All right. So
Everybody
I'm
see Tammy's
yes.
screen that has the Stellar app on it? Thumbs up if you were good. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to stop
Perfect.
talking now. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Well, it appears that my neighbor is having a good old party out in the driveway with their music there, so hopefully you can't hear that either. So today we're going to talk about the Max Sold Seller app on your phone and on the site. So once you open up your phone and you log into the seller app, you are going to see these 5 squares. So the first one is start a new sale. So if you want to go ahead and start a new auction and sign an agreement, that's where you're going to click. Join an existing sale. So say you're doing a sale and you have a whole team that wants to help you. You're going to click on join an existing sale, and your team members are going to join that sale and help you with the pin. The pin, I'll show you where to get that later. Manage sales is where we're going to go today because we already have an auction agreement signed. We're going to add our items for the catalog. There are settings and buyer app. So today we're going to focus on manage your sales. So we're just going to click on manage your sales, and it shows you the IDs there. Wow, I just stuttered. Sorry. So we're going to click on the first one, 98129. So here you see across the top the add lot, the shared button if you want to share the catalog with somebody. The sync button is what you would use if you're doing adding lots, but you're in a location with no Wi-Fi. You can just add the pictures and the titles and everything. And once you get back to a location which has Wi-Fi, then you can hit sync and it'll upload everything for you. The next button is publish. That is the very last step of your auction. After you set the marketing images, you set the start date, end date, and pickup date. The last thing is publish. And right above publish, there's our cogwheel. I'm going to press on that quickly to show you. Um, auto generate lot number. If that is turned on, that means that the system is going to automatically give you lot numbers. A lot of people like to have it off because if they have different team members that are helping them, some people might do from lot 1 to 20, while the next person might do lot from like 21 to 50. And this allows you to make your own lot numbers. There's also the section of manage users, payment details, marketing images, pickup information, and manage dates. Earlier, when I was telling you about your team joining an existing catalog, you would give them the auction ID, and you can see here the PIN number, and that's the PIN number that they would use. But for now, we're just going to go back. Okay, add lots. So the first thing we're going to do is take some pictures here. Okay, so I'm just gonna take some pictures. We're gonna take 5. You'll see up top there in the right-hand corner, it tells you how many pictures you have so far. We're just gonna close this down. And we're gonna take a bottom photo. Okay. And I'm just gonna put these back in there. Oh, can anybody see it?
We just lost it clicked out, I think. Probably
Oh
one thing I
my
have.
goodness. Okay,
That's all right.
let's try that again. I don't know what it's doing.
I think you might have accidentally touched the side of the screen and it.
Hmm. Okay, 1 second. Now I have to
No
totally log
worries.
in. I love technology. Okay, hold one moment here. It's so touchy. The phone is very touchy sometimes.
Okay, take your time.
Okay. There we go. It's just joining in.
Okay.
There. Let's try that again. I apologize about that.
Okay. Make sure your screen comes back up again.
Yeah,
It will in a second. There we go.
there we go.
There, you got it.
Okay. Woof. Okay.
Thanks, Sam.
So I'm just going to take that picture there. Okay, so now you have three options. The three options are automatically create lot. That's where the smart cataloging will come in for you. The next one is save and edit your lot. That's where you're going to go ahead and save your photos and add your descriptions and everything. The third option is save and create another lot. So you're just going to take your pictures for that option and put in the title and description later. For now, we're going to do automatically create lot. So it's going to show you here that it's uploading. Not to be alarmed, sometimes it can take a few minutes. It's just uploading the photos. And now, there you go. It's getting the information. So your lot. Perfect. So it says, shows you the pictures. It says the brand is Skull Candy. That is correct. You can always push that arrow to show you more options if everything is not correct on there. The item type true wireless earbud, which is correct. Color is print or magenta. Bluetooth or wireless includes a charging case, use condition, and again, you can always click on that arrow to change it. Not test it. So we're going to say approve attributes. Here it shows you the lot, the description, and the title that you chose. It also lets you, there you go. Just go down through there. It says category A. And if you scroll down a little bit further, it's going to show you similar items and what they went for on our website. So we're just going to click on that. It says attach close up of the charging port. So we're going to take a photo there. Perfect. Done. And now we're just going to save. So it's syncing the photos and now it's saved. Okay, so now we're going to go back. This time we're going to go ahead and add a lot. But we're only going to do photos only. So let's click on add lot. This here, I'm just going to hold it up while I take the photos. Take a picture of the charger or the charging port. We're also going to put this in it here. And take a picture with the charging port with it. And we're going to click next. Because we're only doing photos only, and once we get back to a location with Wi-Fi, we want to sit down at home and do the titles and descriptions when we have more time and you're not so rushed. We're going to say save and create another lot. So it's going to take us back to more photos. Now, what we're going to do, let me see here. We're going to leave that as it is there. We're going to stop sharing. Okay, let's see here. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to show you how everything is going to work on our website. Okay, let's see here. Share.
Perfect.
All right. Everybody see that now?
Yep.
Perfect. So the website works very similar, very similar to our seller app, of course, on our phone. So you log in, the first thing you see on the left-hand side is manage your sales, which is where we are right now, and it shows you your open auction IDs. New sale is where you're going to go and sign a new agreement for a new auction, join a sale. Again, that's where your team is going to go in order to um, help you with your cataloging. And remember, you're going to give them that PIN number. And then we have our settings. So the first thing we're going to do is click in on auction because that's where we were. It's going to show us now your sales, your auction ID. It lets you know that the catalog is open. Add new lot or publish, which is the same thing that we've seen on our app on our phone. For here, the cogwheel for our settings is over here to the right, not to the far right. Again, you also have the auto generator lot number, allow public access, manage users. That's where you would go and add your team members if they are going to be helping you catalog. Payment details, where you can add your payee or assign someone else as the payee. Before your auction is published, you're going to click on marketing images and set those 4 images, manage your dates, and pick up information. But for now, we're going to go back to the auction ID. So as you can see here, we have 2 lots. And so we have the 2 lots to the far right. One needs attention. So we'll look, our first one is our skull candy ones, which if we click on that, it shows you all the information that was filled in by the smart cataloging. We do ask everybody to please remember that once we do the smart cataloging, just to confirm that all the information is correct, because we want to make sure that when people come to the location, they're not saying, well, that's not what it said in the description. You want to try to steer away from having to give someone a refund for inaccurate information. Down here again, it shows the pickup category. You can also change that. And it says similar items sold on Max Sold and what they sold for. So now we're going to go back to the auction ID again. The one that needs attention, that's for the one we did the photos only. You can either get to it by clicking here under one needs attention, or even clicking on the auction down, on the lot down here, sorry. All right, so we've clicked on the lot. It shows you the pictures that we do have. It shows here, if you go down, I'll go up as lot number 2, the lot title, we're going to say Ascensi diffuser. Fan. Okay, so new, almost new, Scentsy fan. Comes with 1 Amazon rain pod, scented pod. And down here, if there's any dimensions, we can use that, of course. And then again, you have your pickup category. So we're going to say category A and set that. So now that we have that done, it automatically saves. We can go back to lot, or go back here to the auction ID, and it shows you our 2 lots. And now that we filled in that title and description and the category, it now updates and says that we have 2 lots and 0 need attention. Did anybody have any questions for me? No? Heather, I guess that means you're on.
Well, thank you so much, Dan.
You're welcome.
All right, we're going to flip back over. It should say pickup process on the screen in front of you. And we'll carry on with pickup logistics. We might go a little bit over 3 o'clock. So if you do need to drop out, totally understand. Everybody that attended today and registered will get a video recording within 24 hours. So totally understand, time is precious. If you do need to leave, it's completely all right. And if you do have to go, thank you for attending, and we'll make sure that you get the recording. So we'll dive right into pickup process and the logistics surrounding this and the best practices. So this is one of the most critical and sometimes overlooked parts of a successful auction. And that by that, I mean, it's the pickup. So pickup day is where everything comes together. It can also serve as a great marketing opportunity for you because as a partner, you may have the chance to connect with the bidding community and promote your business if you happen to be in attendance. Depends on if you, have a team or you are leading the team that day. Pickup is the last chapter in your auction. So when it's organized really well, it just leaves buyers happy, sellers are really satisfied, and encourages repeat business, obviously, for both you. And then on top of that, I'm back sold as well. So prepping for pickup day, like I mentioned earlier when Natalie was asking that great question, it's usually a one-day event. Lasts anywhere from about 3 to 8 hours based on the size of your auction. So we recommend that you or your team should arrive a minimum of about 30 minutes early to get organized, walk the site, and confirm all lots are accounted for. So if you did create a site map that I mentioned earlier during cataloging, this can be a really good reference tool for you when it comes to pickup day because you're able to quickly locate specific lots by room. We do say that pre-packing of items and lots is not required. We actually recommend you avoid it. We don't want partners spending extra time and resources and materials in terms of pre-packing things. So skipping it really you don't need to do that. Buyers should bring their own packing supplies and inspect their items before leaving to ensure that they're satisfied. So we really want them to have that opportunity to review their purchases before departing the site. And sometimes with wrapping things up ahead of time, even though it seems like a nice thing to do, it just takes longer for people to unwrap things, double check everything, and then wrap it back up again. And it just will save you some resources. We recommend the basics guideline for staffing that you can see on the slide. Just one thing to note, keep in mind that these numbers may need to increase based on the actual auction site. So for example, if it's a condo, you may need to have an extra individual, say in the lobby or to man the elevator. Or maybe it's a large warehouse space where you have to go back and forth and it's going to take a while for your team, if you have one, to escort a buyer to the lots and then walk all the way back. So those are some things to keep in mind as well. Some best practices and pro tips to keep the day running smoothly. You want to set up any signage just before the event starts to help prevent some of those early birds and early arrivals. Use a safe space or have in your possession any high value smaller items from the sale. So we've been talking a lot about precious metals, etc., or maybe there's some coins. It's best to not have those items sitting out in full view of everyone. Fine, you can either assign it to an individual on your team, or maybe it's yourself to hang on to in a spot that you know where it is, or some people choose to, hide it in a closet or somewhere else within the home, as long as you know it's not in a high traffic area and everybody knows exactly where they are. Keep your entrance and exits paths really clear to help keep things flowing and efficient during the pickup. Sometimes things get a little bit of a bottleneck. So if you have more than one entrance or exit, it's never a bad idea to have people coming in one way and then going out another, if at all possible. Sometimes you can't facilitate that, totally understandable. There are two main roles basically at pickup. So first is that lead or point of contact person. That might be yourself, or you might assign that to someone if you have a team. These are the individuals who greet customers, assign what we would call runners or your staff, and manage any customer service issues on site. So things like broken or missing items or questions from buyers. That individual is going to have the master invoice list. So we do still send it out as a paper copy, like you can print it off as a paper copy, but you can also reference it on your device. And this is going to help you in terms of handling refunds, customer inquiries, etc. Then you have the individuals who would be considered staff or runners. These people are going to help escort buyers to their lots and, most importantly, make sure that no buyer is ever left alone on site or unattended. Prior to pickup, you can print that invoice list I was just mentioning that we send out from support, or even easier than that, the newest release in the mobile app allows you to review invoices in real time on pickup day. So this is a brand new feature that supports the pickup experience for you as a seller. Some find it handy to organize invoices by last name. However, you can easily type in the buyer's name within the mobile app and it will pull up their invoice information immediately. As you review the invoice list for all of those bidders who have won items, high value invoices over $300 require that those buyers will need to show you some additional pieces of ID, which I will get into in just a minute. So during the pickup, when buyers arrive, they're going to check in at the designated entrance, make sure whoever is manning that and your lead point of contact person is very visible. Ask the individual for their name and their invoice number, which is in the top right corner of their invoice. So right on the screen over here. Check them off on your master list or check them as arrived in the app, and then assign them a runner to be escorted to their lots. Oops. Sorry, I need to go back to that slide. I almost skipped a section. There we go. Sorry about that. So buyer identification. So for most buyers, just showing the invoice, either printed or on their phone, is enough. But like I was mentioning, for invoices that are over $300, we require that you ask for 2 extra things, and that's a photo ID and then the credit card that was used for the purchase. This is just a visual check only, so you're not going to take a copy of it or any photos of anybody's ID or card information. It's really just to confirm that it matches. You want to make sure the right items are going with the right individual. If someone else is picking up on the buyer's behalf, you should have notified Maxwold ahead of time and ideally have a copy of the required ID and card. And if you needed help or support with that during the pickup, you can absolutely reach out to support via chat to help with any extra information that you might need to verify. So in terms of handling issues and refunds, sometimes something goes wrong, maybe a lot goes missing, something gets damaged on pickup day or just before pickup day, or for some reason the buyer isn't satisfied. Maybe there's something that appears to have been miscatalogued. So in these cases, it's recommended that whoever is leading that pickup, like I mentioned, is the only one who should really manage those refunds by discussing the issue with the buyer, coming to some kind of an agreement, and then putting it clearly in the seller pickup report, which I'll talk about in a couple minutes. In terms of handling refunds at the auction pickup, so an example might be a scenario of a misidentified precious metal. So somebody said something is silver flatware, like I was talking about earlier, but actually it's not, it's silver plated flatware. So that buyer may arrive, collect that lot, they inspect it, they raise the concern, they believe that it's not sterling silver. And so at this point, that buyer may approach a staff member to question the accuracy of the listing. And this is where it's really important for individuals who are helping you out to remember that really their role is just to acknowledge the concern from the buyer, but not necessarily resolve it. They shouldn't be offering refunds, suggesting compensation, or making any promises about outcomes. That really should go to that lead or point of contact person, so there's less individuals involved in the process. So even if the issue seems obvious, it should be handled, like I said, by directing the buyer to the lead, and then you can take over the conversation from there. So at that point, that lead or point of contact is going to discuss with the buyer, inspect the item, assess the claim. And in this case, let's say we determine that it's this flatware is in fact silver plate and not sterling as it was listed, then you would go through the motions of determining what's the best course of action to take. So if the buyer wants to keep the item despite the issue, the lead should offer a partial refund. Excuse me, if the buyer chooses to decline the entire lot, which they can do, because it was miscatalogued based on the error and leave without it, a full refund should be approved. One other thing to note, it's really important that no cash refunds or payments are to be issued or accepted on site, because we as Maxwold really do need some sort of record on the buyer's account. So we want those transactions and that information to be accurately recorded. You're going to document this on your seller managed pickup report or via the app, like I just mentioned earlier. So things like the buyer's name, the invoice number and the lot number, what the refund decision was, partial or full, the amount, et cetera, et cetera. The reason for the refund in this case would be a misidentified lot or miscatalogued lot. We said it was sterling silver, but it's actually silver plated. And then lastly, whether the item was picked up or left behind. Now I can get to the next slide. And then finally, a site walkthrough. Before you leave the site, you want to make sure to remove all your back sold signage, do a final walkthrough to check for any unclaimed lots. Just to note, you're not required to submit items that had 0 bids in your report. So if something didn't sell within or get bid on within the auction, you don't need to let us know about those. But we do need to know about any unclaimed lots so that we can follow up on your behalf. So you're going to think of this as your exit checklist. It ensures nothing's left behind. Everybody knows exactly what's been picked up and what hasn't. And then once pickup is over, that final important step is the seller managed pickup report. So this report ensures that we close out the auction for you properly and resolves any outstanding issues. You want to make sure to identify all the necessary information in either the newly released version within the app or the existing old report that still is around that you can still use, that you see on the screen on our slide here. So really important, without completing this step, we're going to assume that you're 100% in agreement with any refund requests or feedback that might be sent in by buyers. So it's really, really important that it's sent in within 24 hours of pickup and you give us all the information because we want to hear your side of your account. Failing to submit the report could result in delays to you or your client's auction proceeds, and we absolutely want to help you avoid that. So that's the other reason to send it in as quickly as possible, and why it's now developed into the app to help facilitate that process. It only takes a couple minutes to complete and submit, so it's a good best practice to do that as soon as you can. What the report covers, you can see on the slide, so don't have to go into great detail about that. But like we said, not even just the details of the pickup, but also any feedback or things, how it went overall. It's good to know exactly how your pickup transpired, and maybe there's things that we can continue to do and make improvements on. So that's important to hear from you as well. So after completing the seller managed pickup report, take a minute to review the feedback and any feedback you might have received back. So constructive feedback is invaluable for continuous improvement and helps enhance any future auctions. And you can stay connected with our community, and there are resources. So it's whether it's through the website, the training modules, like I mentioned earlier, Teachable, webinars, etc., or reaching out to the customer success team or your B2B partners. We're here to support your growth and success. So thank you for attending. I hope everybody got a lot out of this afternoon. Thanks for hanging around for a few extra minutes. We're a little bit over time, but not too bad. Like I mentioned, we'll send out the recording to you in the next 24 hours. And also as well, feedback always welcome. So if there's anything you'd like to learn about, please reach out and let us know, because our aim is to really support your journey, make sure the experience goes well for you, your team, and your clients. And again, appreciate you making time this afternoon. Thanks so much, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you. Hope everybody has a good rest of the afternoon. Take care and happy auctions.
Bye, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks very much.
Thank
Bye.
you.